Federalist 9, Part 2. These are wholly new discoveries and have made their principal progress towards perfection in modern times. They are means and powerful means by which the excellencies of Republican government may be retained and its imperfections lessened or avoided. To this catalog of circumstances that tend to the amelioration of popular system of civil government, I shall venture, however novel it may appear to some, to add one more, on a principle which has been made the foundation of objection to the new Constitution. I mean the enlargement of the orbit within which such systems are to revolve, either in respect to the dimensions of a single state or to the consolidation of several smaller states into one great confederacy. The latter is that which immediately concerns the object under consideration. It will, however, be of use to examine the principle in its application to a single state, which shall be attended to in another place. This part is important because he is talking about the new science of government. He says, just like there have been discoveries of in astronomy, he's talking indirectly about Newton's discoveries and how planets revolve around the sun, they stay in their orbit, and you can actually precisely calculate that. He says, just like that, in sciences that have to do with humanity, human societies, and things like that, we have made new discoveries. And the discoveries are, like we talked about in the previous part, representation, checks and balances, separation of powers, judicial independence. These are the parts that people are not talking about the new discoveries that we have made in understanding human behavior and human societies, so we can come up with a better system. We can devise a better system. The utility of a confederacy, as well to suppress faction and to guard the internal tranquility of states as to increase their external force and security, is in reality not a new idea. It has been practiced upon in different countries and ages and has received the sanction of the most applauded writers on the subjects of politics. Opponents of the plan proposed have, with great assiduity, cited and circulated the observations of Montesquieu on the necessity of a contracted territory for a republican government. Contracted territory means small territory. But they seem not to have been apprised of the sentiments of that great man expressed in another part of his work, nor to have adverted to the consequences of the principle to which they subscribe with such ready acquiescence. When Montesquieu recommends a small extent for republics, the standard he had in view were dimensions far short of the limits of almost every one of these states, neither Virginia, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, nor Georgia can by any means be compared with the models from which he reasoned and to which the terms of his description apply. If we therefore take his ideas on this point as the criterion of truth, we shall be driven to the alternative either of taking refuge at once in the arms of monarchy, or of splitting ourselves into an infinity of little, jealous, clashing, tumultuous commonwealths, the wretched nurseries of unceasing discord, and the miserable objects of universal pity or contempt. Some of the writers who have come forward on the other side of the question seem to have been aware of the dilemma and have been bold enough to hint at the division of the larger states as a desirable thing. Such an infatuated policy, such a desperate expedient might, by the multiplication of petty offices, answer the views of men who possess not qualification to extend their influence beyond the narrow circles of personal intrigue, but it could never promote the greatness or happiness of people of America. Okay, here he refers to Baron de Montesquieu. Montesquieu was very, very well known and respected amongst the founders of the United States. They refer to him more than any other person during the course of the convention. He was a Frenchman who had written a book named Spirit of the Laws, and he talks about separation of powers and checks and balances. However, he says a republic can only work in a contracted area, a small area. He uses the word contract, but he means small. But here, what Hamilton and Madison are going to say no, we are going to talk about enlargement of the orbit. In other words, we can make this Republican form of government work for a large area. So he mentions that, and he continues, referring the examination of the principle itself to another place, as has been already mentioned. It will be sufficient to remark here that in the sense of the author who has been most emphatically quoted upon the occasion, it would only dictate a reduction of the size of the more considerable members of the Union, but would not militate against their being all comprehended in one confederate government. And this is the true question, in the discussion of which we are at present interested. So keep in mind, the opponents of the Constitution, the anti-federalists, continue to say Montesquieu has said a Republican form of government works only in small places, and Hamilton and Madison, especially Madison in Federalist number 10, starts talking about no, a republic can be established in a large place. A very extended republic means a republic with a vast area of land. So we will continue later.